You go to the main page, you'll see our picture. If you click on our picture, you'll see everything from our wedding last August in California.
Oh, wow.
To how we got started in Other Sheep.
Too bad for Prop 8.
Yeah, but it's still okay. We're
still
part of the
legally
limited
married.
edition that,
Limited edition.
With a buffalo coin.
Yeah.
A Mercury dime.
But you'll see our 2 summers in Kenya. You'll see what we did when we were in Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay. We were on national television in 2 countries in South America.
Wow. That's amazing.
Mexico, we were featured in several
One of the
papers.
countries is a country that now has a civil union for gays. The country of Uruguay.
Uruguay.
Yeah. So when we were there, we were activists just simply plugged us in to how they could use our story. Just like
That's great. That's great.
When we were thinking about, when you asked us about the Asian context, I wanted to say that in Nepal, we were able to call 75 pastors by phone. We got an anonymous tip from someone who was a minister, and he has to remain nameless, but he was able to give us names of people that we should call to invite to a seminar. And out of those 75, 25 pastors showed up. Knowing what the topic was. Knowing that it was about Bible and homosexuality.
And our position on that.
And our position on it. We were able to actually sit and do a seminar with them. It was a 4-hour seminar.
Yeah, and it amazes me you tell me these kind of things, because the irony.
This is Asia. You were saying that Asia.
I know. No, but I'm thinking even within the Asian context, in places like Nepal, and you compare that to Singapore here,
Well,
where
Singapore, you have to employ the local telemarketer kind of
maybe that's what we should have done.
You should
I know. You're not giving away a free gift. That's the thing.
free gifts, vouchers.
If you had like a say, we'll give you a $10 voucher, that kind of thing.
Well, in Nepal, we were able to serve a light meal, and do it at a nice hall, and
that's amazing.
It went well.
Yeah,
You know
25, good
what I
God.
liked about it is that the pastors that showed up gave us a polite audience. Many of them are trained, biblically with an MDiv or some kind of Bible training. And so, and some of the comments that they made were like, this is something that we do have to examine. This is something we're willing to look at. We had the pleasure of meeting one pastor, separate from the seminar, who had an interaction with a member of his church that was transgender. And so he was able to kind of sit with us, this was separate from the seminar, and tell us his experience of having a friend in the church that he didn't know what to do to help that person. And that person eventually left the church. But so he wants to reconnect with that person because he knows that person is now involved in gay activism, and he'd like to just have a talk and be and connect with him once again. So again, he gave us a real polite audience and is willing to hear more on the topic of the Bible and homosexuality.
I know, and as I say, it's ironic in that sense, whereby it's a pity you don't get the same response in Singapore.
Wish we had more time in Singapore.
Yeah.
I know.
You'd be amazed what could happen, though.
Well, speaking of your wedding, how did you guys meet?
Okay, now we have to hear the whole story. How did you guys come to where you are today? Because, I mean, you were telling me earlier on that you're XX-gay.
Right. Well, at age 13, I knew I was gay. There was no doubt about it. At age 8, growing up in the evangelical church, traditionally we say we received Christ as our Savior. At age 8, I made this personal profession of faith, and my religion was very important to me. So that by age 12, I really said, I'm going to go into ministry someday, and that my focus was right there, and of course I did. But at age 13, when you discover yourself as a sexual being,
as in puberty here.
Right, exactly. And all my friends are looking at girls. Naturally, I'm naturally looking at boys. And wow, let me tell you, that's difficult. Yeah. And we don't realize how difficult it is until years later, because somehow we internalize it somehow. And I had my mechanism of survival, which kicked in, which was basically more religion. God must have a purpose in this, and if I stay close to Jesus, as my personal friend, he'll help me through the landscape of this, whatever this is. So I just let my faith become the focus point that is somehow going to bring, because this is back in the 1960s when who do you talk to in America? It was still very closeted. I didn't know how to talk to my dad. I didn't know how to talk to my minister. It became my faith issue, and the only one I could talk to was Jesus, quote unquote. I have a little talk with Jesus. And so at age 13 I knew. When I married in 1980, I told my wife before I married. We were both Bible college students. Okay. We both were looking to go to do ministry together. And I didn't know how I could be married without telling my spouse. I just didn't know. It wasn't an integrity thing.
Yeah.
People said, "Wow, you're so honest." No, I'm just so open. I just didn't know how I could. I just had to tell her in order to think that marriage would be something I would want. So she knew. 17 years married. In my mid-40s, I'm cracking. Other stresses came into life, like stresses do, you know, and this is the first thing to give way. I can't handle my sexual orientation, which is homosexual, this way any longer, which is to play the marriage part, to deny who and what I am. I couldn't, and so at that point, I sought therapy. I was in therapy with Joseph Nicolosi, which is the guru that Focus on the Family uses, one of the gurus, in order to counsel people out of homosexuality. And then I found myself getting into support groups, the ex-gay support groups, one in New Jersey and one in New York City. And the one in New York City that I attended on Tuesday nights is where I met Jose.
What is it, Exodus?
Was it Exodus?
Yeah, Exodus?
I believe
part of the
was.
conference, the Exodus conference. Yeah, it's called Hope Ministries, but they are affiliated with Exodus.
Oh, what a pretty name. Ugly intention.
Well, the truth
very
is,
misguided, very ignorant. You know, they have this whole view of that we have to somehow fix what is broken in a person so that they will be able to come out of homosexuality. So this pseudo-psychology approach where there's certain offenses and hurts that one has in the past that one has to deal with, and this is all pseudo-psychology because anyone who studies psychology would say, for example, your sexual abuse or your physical abuse or any kind of verbal abuse you went through does not make you a homosexual.
Right.
Whether you were close or not close to your father, that's not the issue. I mean, that, you know, homosexuality is not caused by these things, and anyone in the world of psychology would tell you. But somehow they have this misguided approach that if we could just get you in touch with your masculineness, you know, get you to play sports, or get the girl to really play with dolls or at an older age. Use makeup.
I have to scream like a girl.
Exactly. So it's a pseudo approach that if we can get you in touch with masculinity or femininity, then that will also help you
change.
Exactly. It's just really asinine.
So how about you, Jose? How did you end up at that conference?
My journey is similar. I came to faith at an early age, although I've come from a non-religious home. Really, it's kind of like nominally Catholic. But I was the only one who went to church. As of age 8, I was involved in church. Whether it was the evangelical church, whether it was being an altar boy, whether it was studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I just had this interest in religious things, you know, and it started early. By the age of 12, I made a decision to follow Jesus and go in that track, that vein of Christianity, which is evangelical. Got baptized, and I was very active in Christian things when I was in high school. I was the leader of the Bible study in my school. It was a secular school, but we had a club where you could actually have a Bible study club. Could you imagine? What were you doing in high school? Anyway, but in high school, I was really just a really good boy. Actually, my nickname was the monk. You know, I was such an honorable boy with all the girls. You know. And I didn't have a girlfriend until I was like a junior in high school or something. And I was, like I was saying, doing the Bible study thing. I was the president of the Seekers Christian Club. I was involved in something called High BA, which was a club for high school kids that they meet in each other's homes. And you learn on how to share your faith, how to have a strong walk with God, and learn how to study the scriptures. And so I was involved in those two things. And by the time I hit 17 in high school, senior, I didn't discover masturbation until 17, mind you. So again,
God help us.
Again, I was very suppressed sexually, and maybe it had a lot to do with being sexually abused at the age of 5. So maybe that was a factor. But I really was just I was a very good boy. And I knew by the time I was going to graduate high school that I wanted to be in ministry. I had, worked with people, counseled people, taught the Bible, and everyone says, you've got a gift, you've got an ability to share your faith, you've got an ability to understand the Bible, and you have a great way with people. You should be a minister. And I felt, this is what I'm going to do. And I went on to Bible college. Sorry? I went on to Bible college.
No,
thank you.
No worries.
And in Bible college, okay, having discovered masturbation, all of a sudden it was getting a little more difficult to be such a good boy.
Oh dear, Bible college. I think the son of that.
The dormitory situation.
It's not like the movies you watch. Okay?